was driving so fast and like such an arsehole that I had to actually have a word with myself.
Did you?
I just had to slow right down and go, right, fucking sort your shit out, okay? Welcome to the Mercedes A35 AMG.
Yeah.
Which is, I was trying to figure out what's the deal with this car. I was kind of interested in it a little bit because this is the cheapest proper inverted commas AMG car.
Yeah.
As in, this was done by AMG. There's those AMG lines that is basically a trim pack for other cars. This,
the Great Pretenders,
was done by AMG, and this is like the baby brother to the A45, and then you know all your C63s.
So the new A45 is not out yet.
No, but this has some commonality with it. I think the new A45 is like 400 horsepower, isn't it?
So I think it's supposed to be, which it's all getting a bit out of hand for a hot hatch.
I thought that I looked at the spec on this and it's 302 horsepower.
Yeah.
In old money, and I was like, so it's got 100 horsepower more than a Sierra Cosworth. And there was a time when we thought a Sierra Cosworth had a lot of power.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I have driven a Sierra Cosworth in recent times and they don't actually feel that quick, and they're partly because they're laggy as buggery, but it's a lot of power for a hot hatchback when we used to get quite jazzed about a 205 with 115 horsepower. But you know,
times have moved on. Look at the luxury of the damn thing.
The interior on this is impressive.
Yeah.
It
really is.
There's quite a lot going on. But it's you know, it feels incredibly high quality. And I've driven a normal A-Class, and what I didn't like about it was that it had a very high quality interior, but it felt like that was at the expense of high quality engineering underneath. It was like it had quite a bad ride. This
good facade.
The ride's all right. It's not great, but I think it feels better controlled than a Bogo A-Class.
It's a damn sight better than the A45 that I remember.
That old A45 was not great, was it?
No.
The
A45 AMG for me when I first drove one was exactly why you should never believe specs when they're just written down.
Yeah.
Because on paper it just sounded absolutely amazing, all conquering.
Yeah.
But when the sum total of that power, those parts, the package, I just never thought the A45 AMG worked. It was too stiff.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun to control.
Dead end.
This is a cul-de-sac. When I'm in the middle of a
profound
warned
about this.
And who has Roman pillars at the end of a cul-de-sac? Seriously, who does that?
Welcome to Yes, it did. It sounded promising, but I don't know, it's just all a bit much. And that's a weird thing to say, because AMGs, generally the whole point of AMGs is that they are sort of a bit much.
Yeah. Yes.
But that only works sort of rear-wheel drive, massive supercharged V8, doesn't it? Somehow. A hugely steroidal four-cylinder turbo in a little four-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
It just felt...
It didn't quite work.
Silly.
But I'm always a little bit dubious of super hypo four-wheel drive hot hatches anyway. I've never been a big RS3 kind of guy. I've never I've just thought that for the money you pay for them, it always leaves me kind of cold. It feels like it's an overly complicated recipe, but that's just me.
Well, now here's a funny thing, because I always get, what are you doing? I know what's going on.
It did not like that.
This is the second Mercedes that I've driven recently. All the systems are a bit panicky. More panicky than they used to be. It's like they turned up the panickiness.
I don't like a panicky system.
And also, I realised it again, turning around in that cul-de-sac, they've changed the calibration so that it's harder to put them in reverse on the auto now. You have to really mash the brake down. I guess it's a safety feature, but it's actually quite annoying because sometimes you flick it to what you think is reverse.
That was just an amazing corner.
Amazing corner car, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, it just goes into neutral, and then you do that thing where you go. I
hate that. I've
It
done
makes
that.
you look like a complete spoon.
Is this a DCT?
Yeah,
Double
so this is
clutch,
double clutch,
7-speed.
7-speed, connected to 4-wheel drive, which is a bit more tricksy than the old A45, the old shape one, because that's the cul-de-sac again, isn't it? Have we just gone round in a circle?
I don't know where we are.
I don't know where we are.
I can't tell. Oh, this is no through road.
Oh my god!
We're
What
in.
right,
This is
let's see.
suburbia. No, always go to the end because
Because of
the
fly
end-
tipping, there'll be some fly
No,
tipping.
no, not around here. There won't be fly tipping, but there'll sometimes be a bit of an old money car. I feel
No, that's just a rugby club. That's an old money place.
that is an old.
See, look, it's not gone in reverse. Go in reverse.
So it's a different nubbin. They've redesigned the
Yeah,
nubbin.
this is this new the new platform they came up with for the new A class and all of the various slightly confusing cars they've spun off it.
Hang on, is that
They
an
came
A
up with
class
these
come the
new.
other way?
No, that's a B class.
See,
They came up with these new stalks,
yeah,
and they're not as nice. The
Right.
action is quite good quality, but the actual appearance of them is a bit cheap.
yeah. The appearance is not as good, is it?
And
prefer
I
that
noticed something. It says a lot about this car generally. If you look at the design of the wiper thing, it's designed so everything lines up when you leave it in the lower of the two rain sensing settings.
one. What?
That's where they want you to leave it. Which is
Why?
them saying, it's best if you just trust us that the rain sensor works. It's the same with the headlights. For a few years now, Mercs have not had an off on the headlight rotary.
Really?
The off position is auto.
Oh.
So that's the default. Unless you've got the side lights on or the headlights on, it's in auto. Which is again them going, we've got this.
Yeah.
We think it would be best if you left it up to us.
So, I tread carefully with these cars, and the A45 really disappointed me. The A35, I'm not totally convinced by the A class's new front end because it looks like its eyes are a bit too small for its face, and a
But
bit
I
low.
thought the old one, the whole front of the car looked like it was off a bigger car. It didn't fit
Yes.
the back. It was sort of like a cut and shut.
Yeah, but
That
it's
always
still not
confused me.
entirely right. But it's,
I
it's
prefer
better.
this one
Yeah,
to look at.
I do.
But this, so this is 35 grand near us, damn it.
Yeah.
And you first thought it's kind of 35 grand for a hot hat. Then
What's a Golf R?
a Golf R is 34, I think, for a 5-door with a double clutch on it.
Yeah.
So actually it's sort of on the money, but then you start adding bits and pieces to it if you so choose.
Yeah.
These bigger screens are an option.
Yeah, this thing is
It's all
really
thrown
impressive.
into packs. Yeah,
It's
it's
a
good.
big thing. I mean, I know it's divided there, isn't it? But it's
Well, you can't see that from here because the steering wheel covers it, so it's quite neat. You just go, wow, look, there's a really big screen.
and this is a
What's
proper-
weird is this is touchscreen, but you can also work it off here. It's like they've hedged their bets on which system people would prefer and gone with both, which is fine. I mean, it all works. The graphics are quite snazzy.
And you've
But-
got this LED kind of like
Yeah.
grey goose late night bar thing going on. You know, brushed aluminium.
Yeah, that's true. I
Blue
did
UV.
when
Just reminds me
when
of a
I got
certain-
in it, I handed over £20 for a gin and tonic and only got £2 back.
Well,
so.
again, it's an urban vehicle, right? It's
Yeah.
and if you're going to be like Mr. Urban,
Keith Urban.
yeah, who probably isn't urban
He
at
probably
all.
isn't at all, but
But you're going to pay 24 quid for two shots of Grey Goose
well now
and a handful of ice.
the bad news about this is 35 grand basic, and I looked at the spec and it's like it feels like 35 grand basic. You're getting all the stuff you'd want if you want it for sort of driving and things. It's not badly equipped, but then you start moving up the option pack things. Oh, we'll get bigger screens, and then if you want it's weird. I think if you want CarPlay, you've got to go for the pack that gives you the full leather seats, electric heated leather seats and things.
What?
And then you can have the extra gubbins on the outside, the styling features, the little faux dive plane things and stuff. And suddenly, this press demo car is £46,000,
Whoa. Okay.
and that's too much, I think, for a.
Can you hear someone in front or behind of us is urban? They're listening to some
Or maybe they'd like this car. Then.
deep bass notes. I think it's.
there is.
I like this. I like the outlets. I like the shape of the dash. This is almost sort of E-Class, S-Class. That's the thing.
Yeah, there is.
It always feels like you're buying an A-Class and you just happen to be getting half of an S-Class thrown in, which is good news for people that want to buy this. These seats are really comfortable, but it's the curse of the is it real or is it fake leather?
Oh, it's fake, isn't it? It's
so,
what do they call it now? Merck call it Artico.
Artico.
Because they've done fake. Merck have done fake leather for decades.
MB Tex.
MB Tex. Well, Artico is what is.
Well, MB Tex was good. MB Tex, I think, was. So I would
this
like
is probably
this.
like your lower rent MB Tex alike, because fundamentally it's a cheaper car, even though it's not a cheap car. But the A class is all sort of, when they were designing it, it's all costed around trying to make money off the 25 grand models and what have you. That's the thing. See, I drove a basic, an A200, which I didn't particularly like, because that's the thing. It felt a bit cheap. Like the suspension was quite noisy and the ride was too hard, and it just felt like this was to distract you from the fact that underneath it was quite a cheap car. And the one I borrowed was 28 grand, I think. And you sort of go, hang on a minute, well, for 7 grand more, or probably like another 50, 70 quid on your monthly payments,
you get this.
You can have this, and this actually feels much more like a proper thing. And it is quite nice to drive.
I didn't realise that the 4MATIC, as they call it, which still sounds so 1950s. Oh look, it's equipped with a 4MATIC system.
The 4MATIC system.
And it's got it written on the wings along with turbo.
Turbo. But like it's the 80s.
I know, it's lots, and it can throw up to 50% of the drive to the back end.
Yes.
So maximum of 50%.
Yes, this is true. But also, did you read that it is to some degree predictive? So a lot of these systems, you turn in, the system detects a bit of grip is ebbing away, and then it starts to sort it out. Right. Yes. This, based on algorithms,
or is it GPS?
Oh, no, I don't think it's that sophisticated, but it's got some. It's based on how hard you're on the throttle, steering. I guess there's probably G meters in there as well. Right. And it uses all of these bits of data to go, oh hello, they're barrelling into a corner. So they're going to need some more four-wheel drive at some point. I'll just get on that now, before everything gets a bit raggedy. So it is. There is a certain degree of predictiveness, not like predictive text where it doesn't work. Accidentally, sends your mum the word penis. But it has got this ability to sort of look ahead almost, based on sensors and readings and shit. Twin scroll, 2 litre. See, one of the things that, because I sort of thought, is this just going to be slightly cynical, and they've just sort of done it to attract people who kind of like the idea of an AMG car. But it's a proper job. To make that predictive four-wheel drive thing work, and to make it react quickly, more quickly than it did in the old A45, it's now a mechanical rather than hydraulic. The diff. Yes, it's got clutches in it. The clutches. Physical punt the power backwards. It all works now more quickly, and there's a ruddy grate plate. It's like an aluminium plate underneath the engine. Oh, I read about that. And there's a couple of braces that are stiffening the whole front end. So they can mount the steering rack solidly for better steering precision, and then it's a virtuous circle, isn't it? If you get stiffness into a system, the suspension is working more effectively. Well, I do think it's definitely it definitely feels a bit. I don't know. It just feels a bit more cohesive as a package now. Yeah. And what's weird is, even though it's got A35 written on it. So in theory it's not as good as the last A45. You kind of think it's actually a better car. Just because horsepower's down, everything else is better, right? I think it's probably a better car. I'm certain it's the better car. It's quick enough. I'd like to try one of these on the track, just to see what that playfulness, because they've really made a point with this car, saying that it's fun. It's fun to play with, because I think they have identified, like a few people, that hot Audis of this ilk, they're an amazing dragster, and they're amazingly appointed inside, but they're not that well rounded as a package, as
and not a great deal of playfulness.
Yeah, I'm not. I haven't driven this a huge amount, but
Is it fun, Richard?
it's amusing.
Because the lead engineer on the project says it's fun.
Does he?
Yeah, but
Well,
I guess you
I mean,
probably
I
would.
would take his impartial view over anyone
Well, I
else.
would as well. I would.
It's all, yeah. That's the thing. It's, do you know, it just, it's like golf. I think it's funny because actually, yeah, the handling is pretty much like it just grips and turns, and you kind of go, wow, it's really hanging on here. But it does. There's a sense that there's probably, I don't know. I think the A45's got some nonsense built in, hasn't it, where it can kind of do drift mode. But I don't think this has. But you can feel it sometimes. It just goes a little bit light in the back end. But I don't know that if that's what you want.
Would you? I mean, I know it's not alive anymore, but the Focus RS with its drift mode and its four-wheel drive.
So I've never driven that Focus RS, so I cannot comment. But
I know it was popular, and I know that we're never quite sure whether I like the look of it. I like this package with the spoiler on the back and the little winglets on the front. It's a very touring car.
Yeah, but you don't have to have that as an option, because I was quite surprised. I asked to borrow this and I assumed it would turn up being yellow, because that's sort of
Urban.
well, like that JCB, that colour, and but it looks quite restrained in black.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not twatty, is it? That's the thing about this. It's like you sort of, I don't think people look at you and go, look at that.
I don't think it's too
Absolute toy
twatty.
racer.
It would be dependent on the wheelman or wheelwoman.
Yes.
Because if I expected it to be driven with a high percentage of blendery. I read about this aluminium bracing underneath the engine bay.
It's quite a thing to do, you know. It does show commitment. It shows they're not mucking around and titting around with the way that it handles its power to the back and making that faster reacting and trying to be a little bit ahead of whatever's happening.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and it translates into a car that sort of feels, it's lively, but it's more in the. It's closer to a Golf R in that it just sort of gets on with going quickly than it is to, say, the old A45, which just felt a bit hectic.
I think the A45, the original one, which I think is 5 years old now, they made a point of just talking about how powerful it was.
Yeah.
And I think beyond the headline of it being really, really bloody
unacceptably bad. Yeah, it's got 400 horsepower.
Yeah.
That wasn't my question.
If you just bought one of these for 35 and a bit,
yeah.
Let's say you didn't option it with
the
anything.
ride's gone a bit jiggly now in Sport Plus.
Oh yeah,
I feel like it's all getting a bit busy.
It is
getting a bit.
Would you not? I mean, I don't know what the real world MPG of this will be, but maybe I shouldn't think about it, because if you're buying an AMG, why would you? But would I just not buy for the same money a C63 a couple of years old, which is an absolute belter of a car?
Well, I suppose that they're hoping, they're getting people who buy new because they're doing it all on a PCP or a lease. This is a sort of gateway drug to one day getting them into a C63.
Yes.
Or even one of those, new C43s, which is sort of the equivalent of that in the C-Class range, which is sort of is your kind of Madras AMG before the full C63 Vindaloo. Yeah. Oh no, S would be.
S is FAL.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. This is appealing to the youngest demographic to buy into the badge, the AMG badge.
Yeah, this is your little
5-door
my
only.
first AMG is what this is, really.
5-door only, as they all are now. Yeah.
But if this is your first AMG, I think you get a little taste for it. But then if you then went, oh, things are going quite well, I'm going to upgrade myself when my lease is up to a C63S.
Oh.
And then I think you'd be quite taken aback by how much shoutier it is.
I think you'd be taken aback by how much driver's input you'd be compared to this.
And every time I pull out of junctions now, I have to move the steering wheel around quite a lot to avoid having a crash.
Cackle. There's your World Rally.
There's your,
WRC
I
cable.
mean, they're just putting fake record scratches on digitally recorded music, really, aren't they? Because it doesn't normally do that. It doesn't do it in the other modes.
I think for the demographic they're aiming
Oh,
for,
yeah.
which is someone probably a little bit younger than us.
And it is quite amusing in a way,
Yeah.
but it's also, you know it's fake, and that somehow it's faking it.
Quite really sounds fireworky. I actually felt them sort of smacking on the floor panel.
Yeah, I know.
Get it. What? Hang on. How much is an RS3 in one of these days? That's second gear, isn't it?
Yeah.
Number 2 out of your 7.
Yeah, it's all right, isn't it? I don't know.
Would you own one?
Because so many other cars, aren't there? That's the problem. But I have thought about whether a Golf R would just be sort of all the car I need, and I sort of think, well, this is kind of Merc's Golf R, so, and the Golf R's about to go.
I'll tell you something.
So this is a more modern car, so it's got more modern
it is.
features in it. I mean, that's not necessarily always a great thing. So I was going to say, you sort of, they want you to leave the rain sensing wipers on. They want you to leave the auto headlights on. There's no option there not to.
Too much bing.
But they also, I was constantly trying to turn off like the lane assist and all that stuff, because it sometimes makes it feel like the car's trying to do things for you that you don't want it to do for you, and I don't like that. So,
well, I don't. I normally try and disable a lot of that stuff.
But that's fine. A lot of that is optional.
Because it's a hindrance rather than a help.
Yeah. And you see, look there, it can feel it's slightly moving around, which is quite nice, I suppose.
Yeah, it's stiff. You still wearing Sport Plus?
Still Sport Plus. Yeah. But
that's not. It is touchscreen.
Yeah, it is touchscreen, but you can also do it off there.
Okay. Oh, Richard.
Bass drum on the engine.
Nobody races these in British touring cars, do they?
No.
It'd be interesting touring car. Gotta get.
Gotta get through this.
It's got built-in cackle, exhaust cackle.
It has,
In a
because
30
I
limit.
experienced it. We're in a 30 zone, so I cannot.
Well, you can drive first gear at 30 if you want to be properly.
Doing 4,000 revs past.
Maybe you're in second, you can pop it down to
I'm
first.
going to put it in first.
Put it in first.
You want me to break the engine?
No, just put it in first.
You won't let me.
I won't.
There you go. You talk about Merc being controlling. What, I look like such an anus.